Greetings to everyone out there in the NoDQ galaxy. Welcome to the NoDQ panel, back after a bit of a hiatus, but we have something relevant to talk about and something that is newsworthy because in a couple of weeks we have WWE Survivor Series. Today we will be discussing Survivor Series, talking about some of the best pay-per-views and some of the worst pay-per-views. I am being joined by the NoDQ panel members, Team NoDQ, of course, NoDQ.com/virtue, also being joined by NoDQ.com/Big G, and NoDQ.com/Greg. Greg Cherry with us today. So guys, we're going to talk about the best pay-per-views, and I'll get your thoughts on if you agree, disagree with the pay-per-view rankings. I did a poll on NoDQ.com, basically where everybody could vote on the pay-per-views, if they liked them or didn't like them. And this is the list here. So we'll start off at the top, and I'll get everybody's thoughts on these shows. So the first pay-per-view, which is generally considered, I think, by many to be the best Survivor Series, is from 2002. And that pay-per-view is noteworthy for Shawn Michaels making his big comeback and winning the World Championship, the World Heavyweight title, inside the Elimination Chamber, which at the time, that was a brand new concept. So, Virtue, we'll start with you. Your thoughts on this pay-per-view? Do you think it deserves the number one spot?
Yeah, absolutely. I have it at number 2, which I'll reveal what my favorite one was. But absolutely, to the people that like this one the most, the Elimination Chamber debut. And what I remember from that is RVD, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Chris Jericho. I got to see my favorite of all time, Chris Jericho, with one of my other favorites, Shawn Michaels, in the same match. And I believe that was the first time because WrestleMania 19 hadn't happened yet. And I think Triple H got his larynx crushed by RVD in this match as well and continued to the finish. Awesome match, and it was great seeing HBK come back from a 4-year hiatus. I mean, how can you go wrong? It wasn't your traditional Survivor Series, but the Elimination Chamber, it was cool. And I think it's kind of been overplayed since, obviously, with the pay-per-views. But right this moment, 2002, it was awesome.
And the thing is, it's like the first of its kind. You know, it's always cool to see the first Elimination Chamber match. But what was up with HBK's tights? Like, I always thought that they were really awkward.
Here's what I think. This is a speculation. He used to be bigger back during his first run, right? He was a pretty big guy, especially when he first became a singles competitor in like 91, 92. I think he lost some of his leg muscle. If you notice, Shawn after that started going with the baggier pants. So I don't know, just something. And he had most of all that weird haircut. It was kind of like, didn't know if he wanted it short or long.
Right, exactly.
But nonetheless, it was an awesome performance.
Yeah.
All right. Big G, your thoughts on Survivor Series 2002? Does it deserve the number one ranking?
It's up there. I think it's number 2 for me as well. I do remember the Elimination Chamber match that stood out the most. You had 3-minute warning versus Jeff Hardy. Who else was in there?
Was that where Jeff was like on the top rope? Was that where Jeff was on the top rope and
It was Rico on the top rope, and he was up there for like half a minute.
Oh, I thought like Jeff Hardy was like missing his cue, and he's like, "God damn it, Jeff, hurry up," or something like that.
Yeah. And then you had Scott Steiner make his debut again there as well. I remember that. And something else that happened. Oh, the triple threat match for the tag team titles. Los Guerreros.
AJ Mysterio and Benoit and Angle.
Yep, thank you very much. Yeah, so it was a memorable Survivor Series. Oh, and Paul Heyman had turned on Brock Lesnar and joined up with the Big Show temporarily, and Big Show won the WWE title at Survivor Series.
Think about that, Big G. Where we're sitting today with Brock Lesnar as the Universal Champion. Heyman turned on him back then.
Yeah,
I think a lot of fans would like that today.
I would. I know I would. Greg, anything else you would like to add about 2002?
I mean, 2002 is a great pay-per-view. It's funny that it's ranked number 1 because it's one of only, I believe, 2 Survivor Series events that does not have a traditional Survivor Series elimination match.
Right.
I mean, it has the tag elimination match. It also has the elimination chamber. Both fantastic. Underrated match was Trish and Victoria in a hardcore match for the
I
women's
agree.
title.
That was a good
Yeah,
match.
that was very entertaining. And there were, I believe, 5 championships on the line, and they all changed hands that night.
Yeah.
Every single championship that was on the line changed hands. That's a very rare feat, especially nowadays.
Yeah, of course, I love that Scott Steiner coming out and saying, "Give me the effing mic."
After he took out Chris Nowinski and Matt Hardy.
Yeah.
Matt Hardy.
All right.
How weird to think that out of all of those, Matt Hardy is like the biggest star out of
I know
all
that's
three of them.
really crazy to think of. Now, Virtue, what's your number one? I'm curious to get your thoughts here, and we can just go back.
Of course, it was the Attitude Era, and ironically, my least favorite was also the Attitude Era. So my favorite, 1998, Deadly Games. I still think of that song. It's a deadly game.
That's a great
Everybody
song.
knows I'm the biggest Vince Russo mark alive, and Ed Ferrara. They both got to write this show. Guess what? Shane did his turn on Austin. Foley advanced to the final with The Rock, and we know what happened. To me, this was WWE saying we are the best. And that's what got him through this era against WCW. Crash TV, storylines, and swerves like this. And this is what I enjoyed about the Attitude Era. Sue me.
Well, that was a really entertaining pay-per-view. I mean, the wrestling, it wasn't really up to par with today by any stretch of the imagination. However, storyline-wise, it was fantastic. Like when Shane turned heel against Austin, did the middle finger, I was like, holy cow. And then at the end, they recreated Montreal, which I'm sure we'll get to here, the Montreal Screwjob from 97. They recreated that and basically took that real life incident and turned it into like the biggest angle they had done up to that point, with The Rock becoming the corporate champion and just ushering in this whole new era of stars with The Rock and Mankind and even Triple H. Just a really fun pay-per-view and the birth of the corporation. And that led to record business in 1999. So, Greg, any thoughts on that Survivor Series?
I think Virtue's got something against the traditional Survivor Series matches, because since the Deadly Games tournament happened, there were no traditional Survivor Series matches on that show either. So his top 2, neither one of them had the namesake match on it, which is pretty funny. But 98 was a great show. I actually sat down and watched the entire 98 Survivor Series a couple of years ago, actually, and it was great from top to bottom. So even Dwayne Gill and Mankind in that classic, which lasted 30 seconds. I think Vince McMahon's intro of him was longer than the match, but it's okay.
Yeah, that was a great way to open it, and people were speculating like that what that was going to be, and I thought it was just really funny when he came out.
Yeah, and then the story of Stone Cold getting a bye in the tournament and Vince McMahon freaking out because he was a step closer to becoming champion. And I mean, that's kind of what I miss about today, because there was so many built-in storylines in just a 3-hour pay-per-view that you don't seem to get in a 3-hour Raw.
Right, exactly.
Nowadays.
So I think we can go on record and say not all Vince Russo tournaments suck, right?
No, you know what? Give Russo credit where it's due. When he has, admittedly, when he has somebody like keeping him in check, Russo's fantastic. Like I don't want to argue and say that he's...
Yeah. And Ed Ferrara was there too, and I think he had experience in actual television, so it was a good little team they had back then.
Yeah, he did. What was that show? Duckman, I think, maybe.
Yeah, just, it wasn't 20 people just throwing ideas together like today.
Right.
Yeah.
Big G, anything you would like to add about that? And what's your, because you said 2002 was your number 2, so any thoughts on this Survivor Series, and then what's your number 1?
I enjoyed Deadly Games Survivor Series as well. Vince and Shane turning on, doing the whole heel turn, and Rock being the corporate champion. I enjoyed that. 98 is also when I started watching wrestling, so that's when I was like, okay, this is cool. I would have to sneak watching wrestling because my parents didn't like it. But my number 1, man, that's a toughie. There's so many.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Yeah, no
Tiger by the
kidding.
toe.
let Greg go first, and then come back
All
to
right,
me.
Greg.
I actually didn't have one written down, but 2002 is probably up there for number one for me, just because of all the great matches. I actually quite enjoyed 2005 also. I mean, the whole Raw versus SmackDown. I know it was a little bit of a tragic time due to Eddie Guerrero passing away a couple weeks before, but the Raw versus SmackDown match, I feel that entire storyline and that match completely delivered for me. I enjoyed that match quite a bit. Not a big fan of Teddy Long and Eric Bischoff's quote unquote match. But that did kind of lay the groundwork for the Survivor Series now, which is Raw versus SmackDown.
Right.
But I think that was probably the best Raw versus SmackDown Survivor Series match that's ever been done.
Yeah, that was definitely up there. We're at that's actually ranked number 6, and Virtue 98 is ranked at number 9. So it is in the top 10 at least. It's in the bottom, or not the bottom, the top 10.
I've seen 98 on a lot of number 1 lists too, so it varies based on
it surprises me that's that low, especially for how eventful that
and how exciting
Survivor
people
Series
got coming off of that pay-per-view. Like,
when did you do that poll for the Survivor Series?
Oh, this was posted about a year ago, but every now and then.
But it was in the modern day era of wrestling, the way wrestling is, so maybe that had a little bit to do with it.
Yeah, it's possible. Big G, your thoughts on 2005, and have you thought of one yet?
I did enjoy 2005. That was the third and final year that Orton was the sole survivor, and Undertaker came back to continue their feud. He came out in the casket. I remember that.
It was a little poor timing.
Yeah. It was a good pay-per-view. Still don't have a.
We'll have to come back to him.
Dang it.
But by the end of the video, you'll tell us your number 1.
I know. 30 minutes later. Okay, let's move on to another one then. We'll give Big G a little bit more time. Good to see Big G's all prepared here for this, but it's okay. Big G's the man. He did get
I
one.
am prepared.
Just say 2000. Just say 2002 and be done with it.
Okay, 2002. All right, we'll make that my number.
Number 2.
Now you can think of your number 2, because if you had your number 1 set in stone, you would have, it would have just clicked immediately. So
yeah. 2002 would be my number 1.
All right, well, here's the number 2 according to NoDQ visitors. 2001, which is Team WWE versus Team Alliance, basically the end of the Alliance storyline. To me, that whole period just left a bad taste in my mouth. I did enjoy the main event. I really don't remember much from that pay-per-view, and they did not even sell out the Greensboro Coliseum for that show, despite it being, WWE versus WCW and ECW. I did like the promo, though, that Paul Heyman did right before that pay-per-view. I think it was on SmackDown, where he just completely ripped into Vince and just did this awesome work-to-shoot promo. But other than that, I guess they did the storyline where Kurt Angle went to the Alliance, but really he was working for Vince all along. It was a double cross. So I guess that was a good storyline. Big G, any thoughts on that one, 2001?
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a decent pay-per-view. I was still young at the time, so, I was just a fan, so, I didn't dissect it or anything like that, but I watched it later on, and the main event was good. I remember the Hardy Boys and Kane and Undertaker in the steel cage match to unify the tag team titles. Was it 3D?
Oh, it was the Dudleys, yeah. Because Kane and Undertaker were in the main event.
Oh, yeah, okay. Dudleys and the Hardys, yeah, thank you. And I'm trying to think who else was on that show.
Well, Greg, you're the wrestling trivia champion. Real quick, what was the opening match?
The opening match,
you got 10 seconds.
It was Christian versus crud. Who did he face? I don't remember.
You're out of time.
I'm blanking. Yeah. Hey, my title's not on the line. What do I care?
Okay.
I believe it was a European title match, though. The Immunity Battle Royal was cool, too, because Test, after losing his unification match with Edge, came back in and won that Battle Royal by last taking up Billy Gunn.
Yeah, that was a good storyline.
Yeah, I'm a good. I like battle royals. I mean, you guys know I'm a big Royal Rumble fan, so battle royals of any kind I enjoy. So that was fun for me. The Hardys Dudleys match was good. The appearance of Jazz for the first time, which was a little weird. And here's my problem with the women's title match at the 2001 Survivor Series. It was specifically called the WWE Women's Championship. Don't you think that would have given away that the WWE was winning the main event? Because if they would have just called it the Women's Championship and say it'll be the Women's Championship for whichever brand wins tonight, then that would have been fine. But they specifically called it the WWE Women's Championship. I mean, not that women's wrestling was that fantastic back in 2001, but
I remember the poster was pretty hot with like Tori and Lita and Trish on Stacy. I think all four of them were on the poster. That was a nice poster.
I don't even think Stacy was a part of that pay-per-view unless she was managing the Dudleys at the time.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but yeah, I thought it was okay. I try to like block that period from my mind and my memory. Virtue, anything you would like to add about that one?
What I remember about that whole period was it was the rise into the main event of Chris Jericho. I know he battled The Rock for the WCW title in the months leading into that. He was on the WWE team, Team WWF at the time, that got the win at Survivor Series. And we all know what happened the next month at Vengeance. He became the undisputed champion. So that's what I really remember. And again, it's pinned to that main event match, Team WWE versus the Alliance. And of course, we know The Rock at the time, did he really ever get huge wins over Steve Austin? Not really. He lost to him at WrestleMania, didn't he? Every year. So this was a big stepping stone for Rock to finally get over on Austin. Obviously, it happened later on. What was that, WrestleMania 19?
Right.
19, yep.
So, just stuff like that I remember, the little nuances. So that wasn't my top 5, by the way.
You know which pay-per-view I want to talk about here in a second? We'll finish this next one, and then we'll go to mine, because I have one that, in my opinion, on this NoDQ list is criminally underrated. But we'll go in order here. I want to talk about this one since it's pretty much the elephant in the room Survivor Series moment. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. That's the 1997 Survivor Series, ranked at number 3. Now, okay, historically, yeah, this was probably the biggest Survivor Series event in WWE in terms of the ramifications of what happened and just the magnitude of it. But you take out that Bret Hart-Shawn Michaels match and the controversy, that pay-per-view sucked ass, in my opinion. It was a garbage pay-per-view. I think Mankind versus Kane was okay, but I thought the Survivor Series elimination matches were terrible. I mean, you had
Austin
DOA.
returned from a broken neck.
He really couldn't do anything, though.
But he still went over, and it was still, that's the thing. At the time, he had a broken neck, dude. For him to come back and even do 6 minutes versus Owen, I thought that was, you know what I mean? He could have been gone for months.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know we're so desensitized today with wrestling. That's a problem. That definitely wasn't an era of wrestling.
No. But yeah, I mean, really, I think that pay-per-view is very forgettable besides the obvious Montreal Screwjob thing. But Greg, anything that sticks out with that pay-per-view to you?
I'm just looking over the card right now. I have the different Survivor Series pulled up in front of me, and it's weird to see Team Canada with the British Bulldog in it. Yeah, he was part of the Hart Foundation, but he's from England. How can he be part of Team Canada?
Well, he was on, Bret Hart's team at the Calgary Stampede.
Yeah, I mean that was the entire Hart Foundation, so that's different. If they would have called him the Hart Foundation, even though it was Furnace LaFon and Neidhart and the Bulldog, Team Canada, I know they were in Montreal, whatever. But like you said, it was a very forgettable pay-per-view. Like Kane's first match or pay-per-view match was against Mankind when they still had the red lights the entire match, which I kind of like that about Kane. At least until WrestleMania when he fought The Undertaker, because it was a neat little thing for his character. And Austin and Owen was just to get Stone Cold the belt back. And there really wasn't much to talk about other than the screw job.
It was missing Pillman. He had already passed away at this point, right?
Yeah.
He might have added some extra flavor into that feud, but
Yeah. So I think people are just ranking this high because of the newsworthiness of it, but in terms of the overall quality, I think that this was a pretty lackluster show in my own personal opinion. Now, let's move on here. Big G, was there anything you wanted to say about that Survivor Series? I know you were probably pretty young when that happened. I mean,
yeah, I did go back and watched it on the network, and pretty much all I remember from it was the screw job. You know,
Right.
Brett and Sean, and Brett was leaving for WCW, and
It's a big deal, dude.
That should have
was a
been a
big
big
deal
deal
back
for
then,
WCW, but they completely blew it with Brett.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we could
That'll
spend a
be
whole
another video.
Yeah, we could spend a lot of time just talking about that. And
Shocking.
hey, you know what? Virtue, in Russo's defense, I think he helped Bret Hart a little bit when Bret went to WCW and then Russo came in. That late 99.
It was already on the We've talked about this in other panel videos. It was already on the decline
Yeah.
when Russo went over.
But,
Russo was burned out. SmackDown put him over the edge. He will never admit it. He should have stayed in WWE writing shows in Vince's living room. Then he probably wouldn't have all this heat against him. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
money talks.
But, I think Bret was doing pretty much nothing in WCW, but then when Russo came in, Bret actually started to be relevant again, and at least Russo was trying to make something happen with Bret.
And then Goldberg concussed him.
Yeah, and that pretty much ruined their whole plan to do the whole NWO 2000. But again, that's like a whole other topic for a video. Okay. Let's see here. Where are we
Before we get into this worst, I have another sleeper Survivor Series.
Well, I do
NoDQ.
Yeah, Aaron had one too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, there's two more. There's two more I want to mention. One that's on this list, and then one that's my own personal favorite that is way down towards the bottom for some reason. Maybe because it's younger people watching this video. But 2003 with Team Austin versus Team Bischoff. I actually really like this Survivor Series. I think this one deserves to be up towards the top. That Austin and Bischoff match was very entertaining, and that's when Randy Orton started his little streak of being the sole survivor at Survivor Series. The only thing I didn't like was that it was the loser has to be gone as the general manager, and then Austin just comes back as the sheriff 2 weeks later. I thought that was kind of lame, but overall that was a great match, and I really enjoyed Vince versus Undertaker. Vince getting busted open 10 seconds into the match, and Kane coming out burying Undertaker alive, and that of course would set up WrestleMania. And there were little other things on the show I liked too, like Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, even though their match at WrestleMania 20 was a disaster. I did like the whole little exchange they had. I missed that when WWE would plant the seeds for WrestleMania at Survivor Series. But Big G, any thoughts you have on that particular Survivor Series?
I enjoyed that too. I mean, you mentioned Team Bischoff and Team
Austin,
the Buried Alive match, and early in the night you had the ambulance match between Kane and Shane as well.
Yeah, that was the blow off to that feud where Shane got his testicles electrocuted.
Yeah. Trying to think what else happened during that pay-per-view. That was so long ago.
Greg, you got anything else from that pay-per-view?
One of the things that you didn't mention, and it's kind of underrated, was Los Guerreros, the beginning of the dissolution of that team after they lost to the Bashams. And Lita and Molly Holly had a good match. The opening Survivor Series elimination match really was the beginning of the rise of John Cena, too, because that was the first time John Cena hit the FU on the Big Show.
Team Angle.
Yeah, Team Angle. And Angle was eliminated. Yeah, Angle was eliminated, and Benoit made Lesnar tap out, and Benoit and Cena were the last two remaining in that match.
Right.
So that was a big moment for both Benoit and Cena, because that really elevated them even more.
Yeah, I remember that. That was right when Cena turned face, too. So, yeah, that was a very noteworthy Survivor Series. Virtue, anything you would like to add on that one?
No, I think you guys pretty much covered it all. It would have been McMahon and Undertaker that I would have talked about the most. But
I'm curious to know what your sleeper is.
Mine?
I'll do mine after.
And again, it's going against Greg there, saying I always pick Survivor Series that don't have their traditional matches. But I was there. I know the first two in 87 and 87 and 88 were at Richfield Coliseum.
Right.
Of course, I wasn't there. 92 came back to Richfield Coliseum, and I was there. And I remember, I believe this was Shawn Michaels' first ever pay-per-view main event against Bret Hart. So I remember that. But what I really loved about this show It was supposed to be Ultimate Warrior and Macho Man. Well, we all know what happened there. Mr. Perfect filled in, and it was Mr. Perfect and the Macho Man versus Ric Flair and Razor.
Right.
You know, and again, if you look at all the matches on the card, it probably wasn't great by today's standards. Where does it rank on our list, Aaron, for No DQ? 92?
1992. Let's see here.
In the middle of the pack, maybe?
Actually, it's 8.
Interesting. So what I remembered is Hennig was going to walk out and leave Macho Man. Stopped right in the aisle. I had an aisle seat with my dad. I was leaning over the rail, stopped right in the middle. They had the blue mat on the ground, and everyone was like, go back. And he was playing, you know, should I leave him? And, of course, he looked right, he looked left. I'm little 10-year-old me going like this with a flat top and a white turtleneck. Go on the WWE Network and check. I know that there's a still shot. And as soon as I pointed, he started going back to the ring. How do I forget that?
Right.
So I'm biased, but maybe I should have it. It's 4th on my list.
Well, I love the whole Mr. Perfect babyface turn with Bobby Heenan and on Primetime Wrestling, and you know, pouring the water on him. That was fantastic. The match was really entertaining.
That day too.
Yeah,
it was a bad blizzard that day. I remember.
I thought the match was entertaining, but I was a little disappointed that they just did like the count out or DQ or whatever it was. And then the main event, of course, Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart.
Look what happened, an ultimate epic feud, and that was way in advance, way before you would think those two would have the feud they did.
Right.
Just awesome. Just what a precursor.
Absolutely, and it was Shawn's first pay-per-view main event. And actually, I think it was Bret's too, like to actually close the pay-per-view.
Yeah, because didn't Bret win it from Backlund not too long before that?
Oh, no, he went from Flair.
Yeah, you're thinking like 9.
Oh, that's right.
No, Backlund beat Bret. That was 94. That was 94 Survivor Series.
I was thinking that Survivor Series where Owen threw the towel in.
Yeah, that was the 94 one.
Made Martha throw the towel in. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Greg, anything you would like to add on that one?
You know, you brought up the whole Mr. Perfect face turn, and that is an absolute classic moment.
Yes.
The promos between him and Savage and Razor and Flair.
Yeah.
I mean, that is just incredible to watch. And if you guys haven't seen that, I don't know if Primetime Wrestling is on the network. If it's not, it should be.
Yeah, I agree.
But if it is, find it there. If it's not, find it on the internet somewhere, because it is what wrestling should be. That it was that good. It was that captivating. That entire series of segments.
Bobby Heenan just begging for Mr. Perfect to reconsider, and that was great. And then Mr. Perfect's grabbing him by the tie and just getting in his face.
After Heenan slapped him in the face.
Yes, I love that. That whole thing was just so well done. Big G, do you remember that one at all? I mean, that might be a little bit before your time.
Not really. I mean, I'll probably have to go back on the network and watch that one and see how that plays out.
You have to.
I mean,
and that was some of Heenan's last work in WWE, because when Raw hit in 93 of January, he was out of the company, right? Shortly after that?
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to talk about my sleeper
year
now.
in 93 he won.
I'm gonna give my thoughts on my sleeper now. And this is kind of like my bias because it happened on my birthday. I'm talking about the 1990 Survivor Series way back in the day.
That's a good hidden gem.
No, okay. I'll explain why I like this one.
Okay.
First of all, it's built around Survivor Series traditional matches, and I liked the concept of having the heels that win their matches go on to one final match, and the faces that won their matches go on to one final match, and doing the whole ultimate match or survival thing. And I really like the idea that Hogan and Warrior had the deck stacked against them, against basically the entire Rick Martel team, the Visionaries, right? I think was the team name. And Ted DiBiase was with them. So it was like 3-on-6. They had Tito Santana, whatever. Tito just like won by a fluke, like a DQ or something with the match with Sergeant Slaughter. I love the Warrior match with LOD against Demolition and Mr. Perfect. Again, Mr. Perfect. Randy Savage doing his little promo, and of course the debut of The Undertaker is at that Survivor Series. So for me, that one was just a lot of fun. I love that concept. I'm sad they never brought it back, and I think that one's criminally underrated. It's actually at number 24.
Wow. Did they not put great teams together? Was that the Survivor Series where the teams just felt right every single team?
Oh man, okay.
You know what I mean? That's what I remember about.
What I love about those old Survivor Series, the video packages that Vince would do, the voiceovers, announcing all the team members, and just that aggressive Vince McMahon voice. That was such a great part of my childhood when Vince would hype that up. So that's like mine. That would be like an underrated Survivor Series. I mean, Greg, do you have one? And maybe Big G, do you guys have like a Survivor Series that you really like, but you don't think gets enough recognition? And I can give you guys a second here to think about it. Virtue mentioned
I do
92.
have one. Yeah, where's 96 on that list? We didn't talk about 96 yet, did we?
All right, let's see where 96 is. 96.
Brett and Austin? That was
16.
before their classic WrestleMania match.
Yeah, that was a great match.
And then Sid, that might have been Sid's best match with HBK because that was at Madison Square Garden.
It was. That was
the camera and Jose Lothario. I remember
and
that.
Sid won the title, yeah.
That might be close to my top 5. I enjoyed that one. I don't know.
I agree.
guess it's asleep.
That one's
and it was the debut of The Rock, too.
Yeah, it was.
That's right. That's right.
Madison Square
Garden.
Garden.
Intercontinental champ.
Yeah,
right?
I think what's
Well, he
interesting
wasn't
about
champ
that
then,
Sid match. What's interesting.
Didn't he win that Intercontinental title though at that
a couple months later?
Okay.
Yeah, the Thursday.
Survivor Series
Thursday.
was his debut.
That's right.
Yeah, and I think he won it on the Thursday Raw Thursday, but
that's a good one.
yeah, I think that Shawn Michaels Sid match was like the first time that you had like a really smart crowd where they would boo Shawn Michaels and cheer for Sid. So that was really interesting to see, like, the crowd starting to, rebel against the babyface characters. But Greg, do you have one now?
I'll have to take a look here.
Still thinking.
Thinking, yeah.
No, when we do these videos, we help the WWE Network out because how many people probably want to go check these out now?
Absolutely. I mean, definitely.
You're welcome, WWE.
Well, Big G and Greg are still thinking of maybe like a sleeper one. Maybe we could talk about the worst ones and tell people what they should absolutely avoid. I'm going to start with the 93 one. In my opinion, that's probably the worst Survivor Series, other than the Bret Owen thing. To me, that was the highlight of the show with the fallout of Bret and Owen Hart. But overall, I thought that pay-per-view was quite lackluster, beginning with Lex Luger in his home with his family. So cheesy. And, I just wasn't a big fan of that period of WWE. Like, 93, it just wasn't doing anything for me storyline-wise, other than Bret versus Owen, which was great. That was, like, the one highlight, in my opinion.
Well, was it 93 with Backlund and Bret went, like, 30 minutes?
That's 94. 94 I thought was all right. I kind of liked 94. Because you had the Bret Backlund match and Owens on the outside crying. I love that. Owen did such a great job there, just all crying, and Martha's upset, and then Helen, Owen's mom, Owen and Bret's mom. She throws in the towel, and then Owen just completely does a 180 and is all happy and celebrating. I love that. Owen did a great job there. The only thing I didn't like about that was the British Bulldog. He gets knocked into the steel steps and he's basically dead for the rest of the match, which I thought was a little bit absurd.
And we always got to talk about Owen. His 93-94 run might have been the best ever in wrestling to never get to the World Championship.
I mean, Owen's acting is so great when he's there crying and, then he just does the 180. I love it. Great stuff there from Owen. And, the casket match was kind of entertaining with Yokozuna. You had Chuck Norris out there. And
I remember that.
The breakup of Shawn and Diesel. The official split with those guys. So actually, that one I think is another sleeper. The 94 one is another one of my favorites. But yeah, I thought 93 was terrible. Virtue, do you have like one that you would say like is absolutely the worst and people should avoid it at all costs? Notice we haven't really been talking about recent ones.
I have a few. Originally I was going to say 99, but I just think I'm Jay because remember how I said I like 98 the best and then 99. Oh, The Rock, they did it for The Rock. Isn't that where Stone Cold got ran over?
That's 2000.
Was it? What happened in 99?
99 is
Stone
when
Cold 99.
99 is when he actually got run over and they had the big show in the main event.
But that's what I'm saying. It led to all that lackluster storyline with Rikishi. So I'm going to actually say 2015. I'm going to say 2015 because Roman wins the championship and then Sheamus cashes in. And I just wasn't that whole month or two after that with the Sheamus title run, I thought that Survivor Series really ruined the end of 2015 to me. Again, if I'm where's 2015 on the list?
That's actually a great choice. That one I remember like people despising that.
So I'm going to say that's my number one worst.
Well, it's
a recent one.
That's number 27 of 31. Actually, the one that's ranked the lowest, even lower than 93, is 2013. So
that was my worst.
So the main event was, hold on to something, Randy Orton versus the Big Show. Yeah. What do you remember about that, Big G?
2013.
Nothing, right? Because it sucked.
I do remember that. You did have Daniel Bryan and CM Punk, the Internet Darlings, versus Luke Harper and Eric Rowan.
Why do I not remember this?
In 2013?
Yeah. Why do I not remember that? It sounds like it would have been a good match.
And then you also had where Roman Reigns was the sole survivor, and he had 4 eliminations.
Yeah, that's the beginning of his rise to the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one wasn't particularly memorable in my opinion. And 2015, I remember that whole tournament and Ambrose losing, and I think people wanted to see something other than Roman Reigns in the title picture. And then of course Sheamus comes out, and they do the whole tater tots thing. But
let's be honest, the main event for that was Orton and Big Show. It should be one of the worst.
Absolutely. Greg, anything else you wanted to add on that one, or you have another pick?
2013 was my pick for the worst. There was really nothing memorable about this show. I mean, you had Big E and Curtis Axel for the Intercontinental title, which lasted like 6 minutes. You have Mark Henry versus Ryback, and we saw how classic their WrestleMania match was.
Sounds terrible.
Actually, their Mania match was probably better, but I mean, 2013, I don't know what happened. Like, it's so weird when you look at SummerSlam 2013 and WrestleMania 30, 2 fantastic pay-per-views with a storyline like built in right there, and then you have Survivor Series 2013 and the 2014 Rumble, which I was at. And you see it's like, what the hell happened? Luckily, they've righted the course on the way to WrestleMania 30. But from SummerSlam to WrestleMania, 2 great shows, and sandwiched in between is a lot of garbage.
Absolutely. Big G, do you have any other picks, like as far as worst Survivor Series, or maybe you have your sleeper for us, like one that you really like that you don't think people talk about?
I really didn't enjoy 2010 Survivor Series.
Oh, that one was awful. That was Cena as the ref, right, for Wade Barrett.
Orton versus Wade Barrett and Cena as the ref. And if Orton won, then Cena would be fired. But we all knew what would happen. The next night he showed up on Raw. And then the only thing memorable. Oh yeah, there wasn't anything memorable.
Pretty much, yeah. That one sucked the big one.
Natty won her first title. Like, that was cool.
Okay.
I guess, yeah.
And then you had Team Rey Mysterio versus Del Rio, but that really didn't matter either.
Ugh. Yeah, that one sounds awful. But do you have like a sleeper one, perhaps?
Put
us in a little bit.
I don't know where it ranks, but I enjoyed 2006 Survivor Series. I don't know why.
2006. Let's see. That one was. Where is that one? That is number 28 of 31. Big G.
Wow. I don't know. I enjoyed it.
I do remember like CM Punk and DX, their little promo.
And the Hardys, yeah.
But
they had a clean sweep in their match.
It was that, and then I think it was Lita's retirement match she had. And then you had Primetime come out and do the wholesale. And what else happened? Batista won the World Heavyweight title from Booker T again, so I enjoyed it.
All right.
And you had Spirit Squad versus the Legends as well, so I don't know. I enjoyed it.
Is this where Ric Flair and Piper won the tag titles?
No, that was Cyber Sunday.
That was Cyber Sunday. No, this one was Spirit Squad versus Ron Simmons.
Damn.
No, not Ron. He was on the sideline.
Damn.
Dusty, Stardust, Slaughter.
Arn Anderson was their manager.
Yeah, okay, Arn Anderson, yeah. But I enjoyed it. I thought that was just one of my favorite Survivor Series.
I got a sleeper pick, which we haven't mentioned yet.
Oh, cool. Let's hear it.
And I actually bought this pay-per-view, 2011.
I thought it was kind of disappointing.
Well, CM Punk and Del Rio was the beginning of CM Punk's 434-day title
And
reign.
Howard Finkel doing the announcing was a nice touch.
Yeah, and the Survivor Series tag team match I thought was fantastic. I specifically remember the incredible pop that Cody Rhodes got when he came out, because it was right after he shed the gimmick with his like face being broken, and like he was still the Intercontinental Champion, and his music hit, and New York City like exploded. It was like, that is an incredible pop for Cody Rhodes, and we see what he's doing now. So
yeah.
But I also remember Zack Ryder getting a huge pop after he came out after Ziggler's match, setting up their U.S. title match at TLC. And, you know, The Rock and Cena and Awesome Truth, I was entertained by the match. It wasn't anything super special, but you know, I enjoyed the pay-per-view. I thought it was worth the money.
The booking for that match and the build-up was just the absolute shits. Like, they made The Miz and R-Truth look like complete prelim guys. There was never any believability that those guys could beat Rock and John Cena. None whatsoever.
I don't think it was as much about the result as it was seeing if The Rock could still go 7 years after his last match.
I just remember, wasn't that when they were starting to get on the Twitter kick? And I remember, I think, leading up to the pay-per-view, they were more concerned with plugging Twitter than actually...
And Tout, probably.
Yeah.
It wasn't Tout then.
It was probably Twitter. They were more concerned with that than actually trying to make Miz and R-Truth credible opponents where you think, well, maybe these guys could actually beat them. Just my take on it. I thought it was very disappointing.
I want to go back to 2015 since it was my disappointing. So earlier in that year, that's when the Royal Rumble happened, right? And the whole Daniel Bryan went to WrestleMania 30 after the course correction of being with the Wyatts, correct?
Yeah.
Well, 2015 is the one that Roman won.
Yeah. Well, which is the one that Daniel Bryan joined with the anyway? What I was getting at,
2014.
What I was getting at is bring the Wyatts to Survivor Series 2015, and it was Bray and I want to say Luke Harper. I think correct me if I'm wrong. Versus the Brothers of Destruction, and to me that was the beginning of the end of the Wyatt family and Bray Wyatt even being anything credible for the longest time. Because remember they abducted Kane and whatever they did, and then of course Brothers of Destruction beat him down, and you had a young group, and Braun was ringside with him, I think. He wasn't in the match, but he was there.
Yeah.
That's just, again, I was so into the Wyatt family, and I just felt it could have been so much more. But that was another reason why 2015 was so bad to me, because I was invested into Bray.
Well, and I do want to talk about the earlier ones, too, a little bit more. You know, I think that they don't get enough credit for being entertaining shows just because they're from a different era and people have certain expectations now of what they want in a wrestling show. But the first Survivor Series, I went and watched that back a few years ago, and what really stood out to me was the commentary with Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura and how those guys played off of each other so well, and there was never like dead air. Like when one was finished talking, the other guy would have some kind of rebuttal. They were very quick on their feet with responding and playing off of each other. And to me, that really adds to the show a lot. I watched Crown Jewel like everybody else. Well, maybe some of us, not everybody. Some of us watched Crown Jewel, and like there's like all these awkward pauses, and there's, you know, the O's to react to moves, and they just don't really have that chemistry. Like Monsoon and Ventura had that chemistry working together, and there's no dead air. You hear them. I can just listen to them and be entertained. And of course, you have the interesting characters: Randy Savage, Jake the Snake Roberts, Honky Tonk Man, and then the main event with Andre, King Kong Bundy, Hulk Hogan, Bam Bam Bigelow. To me, it was just fun. It wasn't so much about the wrestling, but the characters were larger than life, and it was just fun to see all those guys. You know, back then you would have the TV shows, which would just be stars versus enhancement guys, but then when you had Survivor Series, you got to see all these big stars together in the ring at the same time. So for me, that was like something really special. So 87,
4 pay-per-views there in a year, only 4 pay-per-views.
87, the original Survivor Series, I really like, and I like 88 too, with the Mega Power storyline with Hogan and Savage and Elizabeth, and the whole thing with Hogan being handcuffed and Elizabeth has to get the key back from Slick. Like, I just really enjoyed that. And then they did the little tease at the end, Savage gives Hogan that look like, "What are you doing, man, with my woman?" And then that sets up for the Royal Rumble and the main event, and then WrestleMania. So I really enjoy that, and I also wanted to mention '95 too with the wild card match, which I wish they would bring back, where the heels and faces are on the same team and they kind of have to work together, just changing it up a little bit. And they never have really done that match again since. I found it to be really entertaining. And also Brett and Diesel, I thought was one of Kevin Nash's best matches in his entire career. And that's what set off the heel turn for Nash. And also, that was the first time on a pay-per-view that somebody actually went through the announce table. So I thought it was kind of interesting to see the transition of going from the family-friendly product to going in the more adult-oriented direction. So those are a couple more I wanted to mention. If there's any other ones you guys wanted to mention, go ahead, and then we'll wrap this up. Big G?
I don't know where 2007 lands. That's probably low too.
Let's see.
But I enjoyed 2007.
What was 2007? Was that was Undertaker and Batista? That's actually number 7, so that's like one of the higher ranking ones.
Okay, well, you had Batista and Undertaker in the Hell in a Cell, and you had Edge come in, or he was in there as the cameraman.
Right.
I enjoyed that match. And then you had Orton versus HBK for the WWE title.
Oh, I love that match. That's where Shawn could not do the super kick, right?
Yeah, yep. And that's when Orton pretty much started like the Age of Orton thing. And
yes.
So it was a good pay-per-view. I enjoyed that one as well.
Oh, I agree. That one was really good. And any other ones, you guys?
91 was the shits. I think it was too soon. It was too soon for the Undertaker, and then the botched chair shot. I will never forget.
I do agree on that. Like, I actually cried though. You know, I was a Hulkamaniac, and I was really sad when he lost the title. But yeah, looking back on it, like, Hogan's head never even came close to that steel chair. So what was
I just felt like, I understand it's like, all right, let's get Undertaker over, let's do it. But it wasn't. He didn't even have a long title reign. It went to Yokozuna pretty quickly, right?
I mean, they just
I remember Yokozuna.
That title reign lasted 6 days.
Yeah, Yoko won it.
Hogan won it back at Tuesday in Texas, and then they vacated it, and then they had the 92 Rumble where Flair.
I'm thinking of 93, right around King of the Ring time. That's when Yokozuna won it. Didn't he beat the Undertaker?
No, Yoko beat Hogan. The
King of the Ring. The first
King of the Ring.
Yeah, King of the Ring.
But I mean, I still see the space in that tombstone from Hogan's head.
Yeah, and then they didn't they take out Savage and Jake Roberts, and then the main event was just like 3-on-3. I thought that was really lackluster. Yeah. And the opening match was kind of silly. Like, they had like Piper in there and Flair, but they didn't want to have anybody job out. So what they did is they just had everybody basically counted out except for Flair, which I thought was kind of cheap. I like it when it goes down to the wire, but back then, guys like Piper didn't want to do jobs, so they had to come up with some crappy finish, basically.
But Heenan's commentary that entire show was fantastic.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Heenan and Monsoon. I can't hate on the show because Heenan and Monsoon's commentary through the entire thing.
Oh, I agree.
Like, even the lesser matches was just on point because they were talking about Flair and Hogan and stuff all night. And,
right.
I enjoyed 91. Personally.
Where was 91 on the no DQ list, Aaron?
91 was, let's see here. Yeah, 2007 was actually number 7, so that was a very high ranking one. I do agree with Big G on that one. That was a really good one. Where is it? I'm not even finding 91. Okay, wait a minute. Oh, actually 91's fairly high, number 12. I mean that's
see people enjoyed 91.
It was bad.
Out of 31.
Commentary can't even save it.
We pretty much covered all. We pretty much covered all the worst ranking ones. So unless there's anything else you guys wanted to mention, we can go ahead and wrap this up. I think we got a lot of good points out there and a lot of stuff that people can look on the WWE Network for and check out. So I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Big G, we'll start with your plugs. Go for it.
All right, NoDQ.com/Big G takes you to my Twitter page. I'm almost at 200 followers, so I'm getting there. NoDQ_Big G is Instagram. Jeff Phillips on Facebook. NoDQ.com/shirts. Virtue's wearing his shirt. I'm wearing Jeff Meacham's shirt. Greg has his shirt on, I believe.
And I have a shirt from Pro Wrestling Tees. So there.
And he has a shirt. There we go. That's pretty much it for me, guys.
All right, Greg.
Yes. You can follow me on Twitter at PA Sensation, NoDQ.com/Greg. Follow along with the Wrestling Trivia Challenge tournament. We got another match coming up if it hasn't already been posted. I'm going to tell you what, without spoiling too much, I haven't recorded a bunch of episodes yet, but this tournament is definitely one you're going to want to watch. There's very special things that are going to happen, and that's all I'm going to say. That'll hopefully hook you guys in.
All right.
Also, ProWrestlingTees.com/PA Sensation. Buy a shirt.
All right. Buy a shirt. Virtue.
Buy a shirt.
There's a reason why Greg Cherry is the Wrestling Trivia Challenge champion, because I have to ask him on what years guys win titles and stuff. Mm-hmm. That's why I rely on the WWE Network, too, when I'm not talking with Greg. So I'm Virtue. Follow me on Twitter at NoDQ_Virtue. And you can go to my Facebook, NoDQ.com/Virtue.
All right. Greg, what was the first singles title change in Survivor Series history?
It was Taker at 91.
There you go. See? The man knows his stuff, folks.
That was the first one-on-one match at Survivor Series because all the other ones were Survivor Series elimination.
What was the second one? Quick.
Second one?
Second singles match.
Second singles match?
Yeah.
Brett and Shawn.
There were no other singles matches on that Survivor Series card. Wasn't like Yokozuna against...
no,
Yokozuna and Virgil. Yokozuna and Virgil.
Oh, Virgil. All right. So, yeah, let's see. Which ones did we completely ignore? Like the poor Survivor Series that were neither good nor bad. 2004 got no love. Team Orton versus Team Triple H.
That one wasn't terrible.
Wasn't. 2017 and 2016 are kind of like middle of the pack ones, where 89 did not get much love. That was 25.
Shoot, we've had 30 Survivor Series,
31. So
31.
this year, Staples Center, that's going to be number 32, and I will be there for that. NoDQ.com's 20-year anniversary meetup over at NoDQ.com/LA, and I'm hoping this one is great. I mean, they got some potential with this one. I'm crossing my fingers that it'll be memorable, and we'll see how things go with that. But thank you to everyone for watching, and stay tuned to NoDQ for the very latest. And on that note, we will see you all next time.